Darren, we haven't spoke to you in a while. Give us an update at how the B team have been getting on over the summer and beginning the Scottish Lowland League.
Yeah, well, firstly, there's been a number of players that have moved on to different levels. So the summer was a really busy one for the club. We assessed every player's development on in the season and then what the next step for them was going to be. So I think we've had 12 players move on, and when I say move on, we've 5 that have moved out on loan, 4 that have moved on to other clubs, and then we've a few still here playing. So what we've had to do is move up kind of a lot of the younger under 18s into the squad, and they're finding their first experience now in Lowland League football. So the change has been big, and it's nearly like a new cycle coming through that you start again and go back to work.
What are the potential benefits of those changes?
Well, what we're seeing now with the introduction of competitive men's football for the B team is our young players are experiencing first team football sooner than they ever have. So the thought of sending a 16 and 17-year-old out on loan has never happened before. Here, rightly or wrongly, it's never happened, and I certainly know the reasons why. But what they're doing now is within our environment and our safe environment, they're experiencing that first team football. So what we've noticed is there's actually a real jump in their development. Last year, for instance, we played 57 competitive games. Now that's extraordinary for a B team in any country probably, let alone just in Scotland. So I think the benefit and what we're seeing is the fact that players are getting a lot better quicker, and it's because of that exposure to first team football. So as I said, now rather than having a really strong group of a B team and that could maybe go and win the Lowland League, that's not the purpose of it. It's as I said, each individual player's development, and we've had a number of players now where we feel their next step needs to be out with the club to come back, obviously with a view of the future.
You've spoken about player development, but how important is player development at Celtic, Darren?
It's probably easier to speak from a personal point of view, and obviously I can speak on behalf of myself and Stephen, and it's a passion. So it's huge. It's a passion of the club, but personally for us, it's a passion. So, like the group that I'm talking about, I've looked after for 4 years, the majority of them. In fact, probably all the players I'm talking about for 4 years. With all due respect, my absolute dream for them would be to step out and make their debut for Celtic and then kick on and become a stalwart and a legend like Callum McGregor and James Forrest. But I take just as much pride in seeing a player going and having successful careers, and I would love to be able to say in 10 years' time I'm still watching players that I had the pleasure of being a small part of their journey. So ultimately for this club, this B team, it's trying to get them into the highest level of first team football under our watch. And the step we've taken in the Lowland League has been great, and hopefully there's more steps to come.
So players going out in loan, it's not just a benefit to their player development at Celtic, but it's also a positive for Scottish football as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the players we're talking about, the majority are Scottish. So if they're developing quicker, obviously that's going to benefit Scottish football. And they're gone. There's 3 out with Scottish teams, and a couple who've gone abroad. So yeah, as it kind of goes back to the previous question, everyone in kind of youth development football are all looking for secret formulas. Probably the longer and more experience I gain, each individual player has an individual path, and that's what we're trying to suss out. And when you've got a group of 20 guys, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of due diligence to make sure that every individual is getting exactly what they need. And again, I repeat, but going and finding first team football quicker, we're seeing now that individual player needs a step forward quicker than what they've previously done. So that bodes well for the future.
Darren, the UEFA Youth League and the Premier League Invitational Cup are coming up in the schedule. Tell us, why does entering those competitions benefit the development of those in the B team currently?
Well, last year was the first year I experienced the UEFA Youth League and the Premier International Cup. I think there's so many different benefits. It's the highest end of youth team football in the UEFA Youth League. In the Premier League International Cup, it's the highest end of British youth team football, but has the mixture and the option of playing up to 3 or 4 first team players, which a lot of the clubs we played against last year used that. So our younger players getting to play either alongside first team players or play against first team players probably had the feel of maybe the older way of what the reserve league looked like. So the benefits we found last year were massive. Our performance levels went up significantly off the back of the UEFA Youth League and the Premier League International Cup. And in all honesty, if you were to ask me what I think the biggest factor is, it's probably humility. I think our understanding that the level that we're aspiring to get to and this club demands is a hell of a level. And I think the players, before they went into these competitions, worked extremely hard. When they came off the back of these competitions, they realised they have a long way to go. So that level of humility just upped our whole game. And by the way, coaching staff as well, it affects the coaching staff and wider staff, that we realise we've a really, really tough task in our hands to prepare, because ultimately we want to prepare players to go into our first team at a Champions League level. So last year, these competitions are vital. I've experienced it last year. Someone like Chris McCarthy has talked about these competitions since I've been in, and last year I realised why, and they're such important competitions that the club are involved in.
And just finally, you've spoken about these updates. What would signify progress and success?
I would have to individualise 20 different answers for that, because each individual player will have their own success. There isn't. Hopefully, one of the messages is we won't signify success off the team. So this year we've got a really, really young squad, a talented one, but a really, really young one that will probably in the Lowland League will have good performances, probably at home. Away from home, we'll probably have difficult performances because there's things they're experiencing for the first time. The league table won't be a measure of our success. And likewise last year the previous 2 years where we've finished really high up the league table, they weren't the measures of success. The measure of success is how quickly the players are developing and how quickly we think they can get to the next level. And last year, as I've touched on, a number of players, 12 in total, have gone on to the next level, and some of them have already made their debut in the first team, in our first team. So, as I said, to answer that question, there'll be 20 individual answers. So, measure success for each individual player. We'll maybe have the time at the end of the year to go through all of them with you.
Oh, thanks, Darren, for joining us.
Thank you.